Season's greetings, everyone. This is Illiterate. This week we are covering Spirited, the new film on Apple Plus. My name is Evan. I just checked out the Will Ferrell comedy with Ryan Reynolds. I'm hanging out with my buddy Taylor.
Hello. I looked into Charles Dickens separating the myth from the truth.
It's upon us, yet another Christmas Carol adaptation. You knew it. We took the opportunity. We're breaking it down today. We're busting into the Christmas Carol. We're gonna know all about it. Spirited is huge. Spirited is beautiful. It's grand. And gosh, Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell are just fun to watch together. The whole movie is based on their dynamic anyway, having a kind of a broship. And so why not let that dance you along for 2 hours? But today we're going to talk about all the Christmas Carol nonsense.
Because it is the archetypical master story of Christmas that has been done a billion times. Why 179 years later is here another slightly different take? I was curious, what do we owe to Charles Dickens for what Macy's puts up about Christmas?
Where does Christmas come from? The Christmas that we know it?
The Western
I'm
version
stuck in
of
the
it.
snowflake in Whoville. What is Christmas? Where does it
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about and see maybe what this movie does, what all the ones that change it up every year, what they're pulling from. This started out as a novella in 1843 and was published Christmas season, go figure, on December 19th and sold out by the 24th. It was very successful
incredible.
first year. And then it's never been out of print for 179 years.
Wow. Oh my gosh. gosh.
I thought I would, since I didn't know too much, not much at all, but a little freshening up on Dickens that gets him here so that we understand.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize that this is, if we were in Victorian England, it'd be like, oh, this is a socio-political commentary. This isn't a folksy children's parable. And it's not hard to see how, but it makes sense to see what Dickens is about before he decides to write this thing.
That's funny. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. He had a middle-class life to start, but his dad got his family into financial duress and was sent to a debtor's prison. So he didn't have a father. And at age 12, Dickens had to pawn all his stuff, leave school, and work at this disgusting shoe polish factory. Classic industrialization, child labor.
Okay, that is buckle
this
up.
Is his villain origin story.
Yeah, this is all making sense so fast.
So let's cut to 1842, and he is an established writer. He's already got 6 good books under his belt. The one we'd know is Oliver Twist, is one of these 6. I just saw in one of these novels called The Pickwick Papers, there is a character who recounts a story of this guy, Gabriel Grubb, and he is a lonely, mean sexton, which I didn't know what that was, but it's a church keeper, graveyard keeper kind of maintenance man of churches of the time.
Okay.
And in this story, within a story, this guy has a Christmas conversion after goblins show up and show him his past and future.
As one does.
To all sextons, yeah. So
when the goblins arise,
to make you appreciate
it's that time of year. We love it.
Yeah. So he's not pulling this out of thin air. He had fooled with this idea, but that would be the prototype that most literary historians would say he's pulling from.
Okay.
What happens to say I'm going to do this in 43 with him is earlier in that year, he had visited these tin mines in Cornwall and seen these kids working there in even worse conditions. So nothing has changed from his childhood.
Oh my gosh.
He's also went to the Field Lane School, which is basically this homeless shelter / school with services for poor kids, which is crazy. Like to think about 1850s-ish.
Yeah.
Like why are there so many just destitute poor kids running around working 15 hours a day? It's a crazy time.
Ring around the rosy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's was it cholera, I think, or tuberculosis?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's like Yeah,
It's not good.
it's a
It's a
dark.
little kids chanting and all over the playground. It's like it's a very dark. It's rooted in like just tragedy,
Yeah.
death.
And so he's seeing all of this. In February of 43, this report of the Children's Employment Commission comes out describing the effects of the Industrial Revolution, and Dickens is horrified by this, thinks more people should pick up on this, and is going to write a pamphlet or essay called An Appeal to the People of England on Behalf of the Poor Man's
Mm,
Child. This does not
okay.
go.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
what a title! I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Incredible.
But he realizes, storyteller that he is, that there could be a more effective way that connects all these things that is not an essay that nobody's
Yeah.
going to read
What
with a
if we
really long
had
title.
something emotional? I don't
Yeah,
know, like you experienced it.
yeah. And
What's it?
also, I love
What's it
Christmas, so
called?
yeah. So the thing that goes along with this poor children, destitute, industrial revolution stuff is the period that Britain is in at the time related to Christmas. This is why Christmas goes hand in glove with it. Is
Hmm.
Britain is reevaluating their Christmas tradition. So I always wondered, and then happened to look it up this week. Why is it called a Christmas Carol? It
Yeah.
it's not a
Good
song.
question. Yeah.
you know, we just let it pass us by. I looked in the book novella, and the chapters are titled staves, which would be like the other word is staff. So it's the lines of musical notation. So he's even
Mm,
riffing off of the carol idea.
interesting. Did not know that at
Yeah.
all. That definitely starts to characterize this a little bit.
Yeah. But the reason he's so interested in making it a carol and giving it this vibe is England has had a love-hate relationship with carols as it relates to religion and the celebration of Christmas.
Really.
History-wise, in the mid-1600s, the Puritan Revolution took great issue with these celebrations because they're trying to separate themselves from the Roman Catholic ideas, Christ's Mass, Christmas, the 12 days of
Mm,
Christmas, all of the things surrounding
mm-hmm,
that. And so they
mm-hmm.
ban any celebration of Christmas in 1644. No
Wow.
carols, no mass, no feasts, no nothing. And
Christmas is canceled.
yeah, yeah. And this lasts for almost
They
20
did it.
years. Yeah, they, they got it. They
Wow.
said no
20
more.
years. A 20-year banishment on Christmas.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you could imagine 20 years what that would do to a culture. It's like we had a pandemic for you couldn't go out. I mean, depending on where you were, but it's like imagine not being able to do something for 20 years, what that
Yeah.
would do.
Suddenly, Halloween was illegal.
Yeah.
Then, like,
um,
when, down the road,
yeah.
we're having to explain to the next generation what Halloween was.
And why you're doing these things and all of that. So it
Yeah.
really messed them up. But like with anything that gets prohibited, people are going to do it anyways. So there was a lot of
You
people
got
that were
that
singing, yeah,
risque secret Christmas.
basically.
That secret Christmas. That's what I want.
Yeah. So that's how the carols kept along. And what's happening though, as we reach the early to mid 1800s, is this. Enough time has passed where the ebb and flow of it, and it got back in, but now people don't care. It's this like kind of almost like fashion, and this resurgence where people are interested in celebrating Christmas, Christmas carols, things
Hmm.
like that.
Do
So
real quick. This is an
yeah.
aside. Are you aware of anybody that's ever told ghost stories at Christmas time? Because there's that song that's in, and every time I hear that, I go, "That
Yeah, yeah.
sounds like I get the notion," but I've never even heard that in a story. Anyway, I don't-
Yeah. Well, it's not an aside. So the ghosts and death stuff also
good.
with this, you're right, it does seem odd. But in the Victorian era and with
That's
the
yeah, perfect, perfect.
permutations of
I'm
what
smart.
Christmas was a celebration of, this is also a time to remember loved ones. And it's also the year's end, a time for reflection. And in a way, like we talked about in our Halloween stuff, where it's the liminal
Mm.
space between summer and,
Mhm.
and winter. The winter
Yes, yes,
solstice
yes.
is
The
happening now. It is
transitional. Yes, yes.
the winter solstice is purely the darkest time of the year. So it's the best time to talk about death and ghosts and whatnot. So it was, yeah, you're right that it does seem strange now, but it wasn't that strange that he's doing a Christmas ghost story carol
Right.
people were vibing with it.
As just as realizing that,
Yeah.
things come and go in waves. Sometimes things get banned and are illegal for 2 decades, and then you have to bring them back. That's just one of those things that, that doesn't happen much anymore. But,
Right.
maybe it should. Maybe we should bring it back. Maybe
God.
we should all gather around the fireplace on Christmas Eve night, so like we're in the woods. I don't know.
Yeah. It's contraband carols. Yeah.
Secret
So
Christmas. That's what I want.
yeah, yeah. So with The Secret being out 1833, there's some bangers that are first coming out. The First Noel, I Saw Three Ships, Hark the Herald with the melody that we
Oh.
know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Slap.
Yeah.
Just slapping.
So this is the
Just
time where you're like, when are all these things coming out? It's in this time in the
greatest hits.
early
This is the
yeah.
era.
Yeah, of we want to have some real carols with the medieval melodies and instrumentation that that
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
sacred and forgotten. So yeah, all this is swirling around in his time, as well as
Beautiful energy.
yeah, yeah. These are two things that come about at this time also that we think of as staples. The first commercial Christmas card was
Yes.
created in 1843, the exact same year. So this is
Wow.
exactly this time. And then the big thing that comes at this time as well is the tree, the Christmas tree.
Really?
And
Tell
it's
me.
not in the Christmas Carol. The tree is more of a German tradition, O
Okay.
Tannenbaum, Eastern Europe. But Queen Victoria, Victorian England, her husband is the German Prince Albert, and they got married in 1840.
Okay.
And so he is bringing in the tree, and there's an illustration in
Mm.
1846 with them by the tree, and boom, it's popular. And it's also a
She's
trend for the
confused. Suddenly it's trendy.
why are
See,
we
look, the
standing
people
with
love
this?
it, and she's still angry about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So,
He's
and,
made
and,
it part
and-
of their culture, and she's still not sold on
yeah,
it.
the who is sold on it though is the industrialized and urban folk of modern England, because they're like,
Mm,
you know what I mean? Now is this time with all of
yes.
this change, they're grasping for ritual and ceremony and trends. And
Mhm.
here comes one. Thanks,
This
Prince
is fun.
Albert.
This is new.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got carols, we've got cards, we've got the tree, we've got ghost stories. He is all in the mix for what the zeitgeist is wanting. He,
Christmas is percolating. Christmas
yeah,
is assimilating. Christmas is in the air. What you think of Christmas is being constructed at
yeah,
that time. What a magical time.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
fresh and new, it's the trend of the season where,
yeah,
we're all so
exactly.
jaded over everything in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's good to reflect on it and be like, oh, yeah, Christmas trees were new in England.
Yeah.
People were not doing that really. Or they were saying, oh, that's passe. That's for the peasants in rural areas. No, you can
Right,
have it
right, right.
in your brownstone. Yeah. So back to Dickens, where he sits with this. He's losing money. His latest book was falling in sales, and the publisher threatened his salary.
Mm.
So that's also that doesn't hurt. Just come up with something
Hmm.
that's a bop for the
Yeah.
Christmas hungry, impoverished children. The country's also crumbling from the inside with this. Uh,
Lord.
he starts it in October and finishes it in 6 weeks. Basically, the week of getting it printed, it's is him finishing it.
Oh,
And
good.
I loved his process. A lot of it he was writing in his head, walking around at night in London, sometimes up to 20 miles a night.
Mm.
But it does
Really?
feel like it does feel like how you would want to get the story. You would want to
Mhm.
be this feverish, in your head, wild person roaming the streets at night to get a sense of
My
what's
God.
wrong with the city. What will Scrooge experience in a night around Christmas time? So I hadn't heard that, but I think that's cool.
No, yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah. I think the maybe the way to go is the stuff in the story, because that's what gets turned around and is in this spirited thing. They
Yeah,
they mess with that. They mess with who's who, but the
everything.
yeah,
It's a
the central
complete
premise of it.
reappropriation of all of it, and that's fine. It's been
Yeah.
200 years.
Yeah.
Got to
So might
freshen it
as
up a
well.
little bit.
Yeah. But I love, since this is what we talk about, the adaptation, what he's pulling from. Where did he get these ideas? As we said, the
Yeah.
ghost story kind of stuff was in vogue. I guess Scrooge, to start.
Yeah.
The obvious answer would be his sympathetic / demonizing feelings of his father and
Mhm.
and going to a debtor's prison. Well,
Yeah.
I wonder I wonder if that
I
had anything to
wonder,
do
yeah.
with his feelings of people and wealth and stinginess and all of that.
Right.
Um, could be also about himself though, because in when Scrooge goes to visit himself in the past, Scrooge as a kid is this unhappy, money-hungry child, which Dickens also
Hmm.
fears for himself and maybe, he felt that way too,
Mhm.
to get to where he is. And it's
Interesting.
a self-reflection of, I don't want to be
Yeah.
like this, as he's
Yeah.
gaining in popularity. Could be two people that are real in this time, which so sad that there are two people that are notorious misers. One of them, John Elwes, was a member of parliament in the late 1700s and covers a lot of the stingy tropes. So, went to bed at dark to save on candles and wore dilapidated clothes and ate moldy
Whoa.
food and
Oh
never
god.
lit the fireplaces, all
Oh
this
my
stuff.
god. Oh
Which
my
to me is
god.
like you're living like a homeless person, letting
Yeah.
his manners fall into disrepair, hopping between them because
Uh,
birds are nesting in the rafters, and like
oh god.
you're living such a horrible life because
This is
but
giving
you're
me anxiety.
amassing this wealth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't believe that that's a real person also that people knew, and that
Yeah.
he's a member of parliament and he's known for just being a crazy person, hoarding,
Lord.
hoarding, hoarding. The other one is Jemmy Wood, who had a moniker, the Gloucester Miser, because he
Mm.
was he was inherited and owned the bank, the Gloucester Bank, and is potentially Britain's first millionaire.
Ooh.
And the thing that I could pull from his life that maybe was a corollary is reported that there was much levity at his funeral in contrast to what was supposed to be a somber occasion, which is
Oh,
definitely
really?
in the Scrooge
How
stuff.
so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his coffin was stoned, like people
What?
threw rocks at it. So it was like he was not a it
Oh
was a
my gosh.
joyous occasion at his
Oh my
at his passing.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They loved it. It was
Which is
he's gone. Oh my
yeah,
god,
it's in The
staying
Christmas
gone.
Carol where people are laughing about Scrooge and pawning off his
Yeah,
linens
okay.
and all that stuff. So that's pretty close. And then the word Scrooge, there was a word, if you were speaking English at this time,
Mm.
scrouge, with a U
Mm.
instead of two O's, OU. And that means to squeeze or to press. And so
There we go,
perhaps
yeah.
it would feel that way with
Yeah.
him. So what are they? You said that they reappropriate and mix up the characters and whatnot. What are they doing with
S
Scrooge now?
the Scrooge that we know, that's backstory.
Uh-huh.
He has evolved now this into the Ghost of Christmas Present, who is the
Um,
who is running a very the Santa Claus with Tim Allen-esque business behind the scenes, of showing people their Christmas pasts.
I see.
um, Yes, so Scrooge has become the Christmas present, the ghost of Christmas present, who was going
Uh,
around and made a business of doing the deed of going and showing people their wrong ways. So
mhm.
the movie is about him trying to work on the Ryan Reynolds character of Clint.
But Ryan Reynolds is a wholly original. I guess he's like the
Yes,
Scrooge of
yeah.
this then. Yeah.
Yes, he would be
Yeah,
the modern days. The
I
Ghost of
see.
Christmas Present sees himself in Clint. Clint is the modern new
Uh,
Scrooge, corporate CEO, screwing people over, that type of thing. So he sees himself because he was Scrooge, the Ghost of Christmas Present. It's a bit confusing, but they're taking things and giving this lineage to it and really building it out and giving it this universe.
yeah,
Very Monsters Inc., if you will, mixed with the
like a
Santa
magical thing behind
Claus.
the scenes. I see. I see. I
Yes,
see.
yes.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The Christmas present stuff, if you were in Victorian England, would be most alluded to Father Christmas, which is how most of the adaptations present it, not as
Mm.
Scrooge incarnate years later. But I guess they wouldn't. But this was back to the Puritan stuff. He was the secret underground symbol during that controlled time. He became the face
Wow.
of
Okay. Yeah.
festivity. So then that makes sense. But it's also not connected to the American Santa Claus and St. Nicholas. It gets very confusing.
They're similar.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
similar.
The interesting thing that I found about talking about the political side of things, you had mentioned it's like, oh, it's modernized to this corporate CEO greed. I mean, that greed stuff is so universal
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
guess with the yeah,
it's
yeah.
greed is obviously centering it, but what they're really like hinging their bets on is change. Or is change possible? How
I
is it
see.
possible? When is it possible? Greed is kind of the given there. It's like, well, we know people can be bad sometimes or
Yeah.
have bad tendencies. Um, there's how
Yeah.
do we get around it? What's the answer to that? How do you change it? Is it, you know, in some cases, is it possible for everyone? Is very much what the film comes down to is like, well, yeah, it works for most people, but what about the 1% maybe that don't
Yeah.
change? And we've all think about that. We get to the end of these Christmas movies and we go, oh, isn't that nice? But you know,
Yeah.
what if they just like woke up the next day and changed their mind, or they went back
Yeah.
to how they were? This movie, like head on, is talking about that.
That's interesting. Is there a past and future creature or something in this?
Yeah, I
To
mean, there's all
Yeah,
it's all they have. There's like man, the death. He's called Yet to Come, but he looks
I
like
see. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the Grim Reaper is this
Right.
giant, absolutely horrific character in it. So past is part of it. It's
Yeah,
a huge cast of and very much like what kind of like I keep bringing up the Santa Claus of all these other mythical characters that are
I
part
see.
of this behind the scenes
Christmas
magic.
operation. Yeah, gotcha, gotcha. Because I ask about the past and the future stuff because the present, talking about it being a political, socioeconomic statement, there was stuff happening right then that he wanted to
Mm,
address with this Christmas present character that doesn't really
okay,
work outside of industrialized children's workers
outside of the moment.
situation. Yeah, so in the
And we gotta put
novella,
an end
yeah.
to children's labor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. So the thing that takes place in the novella that everybody loses in the rest of the adaptations, basically Christmas present right before he disappears because you can only live one day or whatever in the novella, Scrooge spots these two hideous, emaciated children underneath the big cloak of the ghost of
Mm.
Christmas present. And who are
Whoa.
these? It's a boy and a girl, and they are named Want and Ignorance. And there's this
Mm.
allegory, and Scrooge asks, well, how do we help them? And then present snidely is like, well, are there no poorhouses or prisons or the
Good
thing
lord.
that he says. And so
Any
the
cages
yeah.
around?
Yeah, exactly. The thing that he is getting at with this, Dickens is here, these are man's responsibility. This is your thing.
Mhm.
Poverty is a
Okay,
problem
yeah.
of the present. This is couched under the ghost of present. And so this isn't a thing to figure out tomorrow and it's not
Yeah.
over. This is now. And that was very
Yeah.
apparent to the adults reading this in 1843 that our
Oh,
kids
wow.
are and even in the original wood carving and drawing that's in the original book, there are smokestacks and factories in the background of this
Mhm.
particular sketch.
That would
So
hit. That would really, really hit. That's it. That's incredible. It's incredible that the story has the staying power while the real hit of it and the mission of it has kind of
Mhm.
faded away and become really irrelevant as to why we
Yeah.
keep, using it. And that's fascinating that something can be this assimilated and well known while
Mhm.
the kernel of it, I mean, the pop you're trying to get to is diminished. I mean,
Yeah.
the actual thing that it's written about trying to change, it's been 200 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
Well, we've
fascinating to
made
me to the
progress
point
in
where, yeah,
certain
I
places,
mean,
yeah.
exactly. And that's why the
Yeah.
story works is you can change out what that problem was and put in another one. You can make it about talking about specific things. You can talk about different parts of greed, different parts of societal, shortcomings,
Mhm.
different parts of shortcomings in our culture. and the story still works.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, it is
um,
super interesting that it's the kids'
but I
angle
never,
that
yeah, I
yeah.
never knew that that was really the part that would, if you were reading it when it came out, that would go, oh my god, you,
Yeah,
that would be the part you'd walk away going, oh god. And now, I mean, it's a story, but we're looking at other little bit, we're looking in the peripherals around that
it's
idea in it,
broader
I
for
guess, to
sure.
find exactly to find what we're really keeping it alive for. That's fascinating. Well, it just goes to show you, you can make your content about something really driving towards a specific thing, and then, you know there's a
Times
lot.
change.
The times change, and there's a lot more to your content than the mission, than the driving thematic of it, than the pop of it.
Mhm.
So, everything's got to be good.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
look, if everything's that good, then that becomes more important than the pop, the reason why, the mission. That's really fascinating.
yeah.
So hey,
Well, I loved finding out the pop too, the big emotional, almost melodramatic at this point, Tiny Tim. Dickens loves great
yeah,
names, and
yeah,
finding where that is pulled from. He did have a disabled nephew named Henry who was 5 when this came out, and
mm,
so people look at that. Uh,
hmm,
this is the craziest part of the Tiny Tim stuff now. 1997, there was a church in London that construction workers were renovating, and certain portions of it had been paved over in the 60s. They found a burial site, a graveyard, and
no,
within it, they found a gravestone that was named to Timothy Cratchit. I think that's even maybe even how it's spelled. Uh,
whoa,
Tim Tim Cratchit, and they had no idea that he would have known this guy or would have seen this thing. Timothy Cratchit's age was 1839 to 1884, so he would have been 5 at the time. He would have been a kid at this time, same age as Henry the nephew, and
oh
that means he
wow,
also lived until 40. And when they unearthed all of this, the skeleton of this guy, Timothy Cratchit, had a frame of metal and leather on his legs and lower back. And so this is
oh
probably a real
my
kid. Yeah.
god, oh my god, are you? They unearthed Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
They
Who lived to
found
be
him,
40. He did not
who
die.
lived to be
Yeah.
40, who did not die. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my
Which he would
gosh,
not have
that's a
known.
revelation. Oh my
I mean,
god, more people need to know
even
that.
if yeah, even if Dickens knew him, he would have known him as a 5-year-old when he wrote it.
Right, right.
Crazy.
Oh my
Uh
gosh, that's incredible. That's incredible. That's so funny. That's so funny. And they that's very present in Spirited. It's a
mhm.
running joke that Ghost of Christmas Past can't remember his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it's Clint is because he knows the story is keeps trying to remind Ghost of Christmas Past what the name of him actually
Anyone
is.
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's cool
God, I cannot
that
believe
it
that. I can't.
came
What a
back around.
1997. The 90s were
Yeah.
crazy. Uh,
Crazy. Um, speaking of names and remembering stuff, the last thing is all the legacy, what words we use, the things that we say, all the stuff that Dickens did with this that now is pat when, like you said, Christmas was was being built from the ground up
oh
in the
yeah,
in the mid
Christmas was
1800s.
hot and happening. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
So what
as I
yeah.
see it, I don't think Christmas really was done until 1983, A Christmas Story. I think that comes
Yeah.
out, and then we basically have Christmas, and we've got some nice things that have come out since, but like Christmas as we know it was solidified and done.
Yeah. All the tropes, all the
Yeah,
modernized
yeah.
version of it. Yeah.
I want to
So
cram Grinch in
yeah.
there, but I think the Christmas Story really was the cap on it. Everything else is just gravy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The big thing is literally the phrase "Merry Christmas," right?
Whoa, no
Uh,
way, really?
so this had been around, but it's thrown around by Scrooge, and the Victorian public latched onto it infinitely more after this because merry meant more pleasant, agreeable, just generally like the merry month of May. It doesn't mean like a jolly, raucous, insane. It's like, no, it's like nice weather as spring
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
approaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pleasant, right? But
Hmm.
Dickens solidified the enhancement and leveling up of merry to be like, no, it's Merry Christmas. It's not just agreeable.
It's jolly.
Yeah. Uh, what happens though as the language changes is Mary starts going too far, and it comes to mean you're intoxicated, you're overboard, you're hanging your head in the
Oh
bushes,
gosh. Oh
you know.
no. It goes
So
all the
that's
way to the other end. That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
funny.
And so this is I always was curious about Queen Elizabeth II. She started using Happy Christmas, right? And
Oh,
so
how
that
trendy.
that becomes the British way where it's in Harry Potter. Happy Christmas, Ron. And
Mm.
I I never realized why that was, but it's because Mary lost
I
its
didn't
way.
even notice. I didn't even
Yeah.
notice. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just funny as things change meaning and the pendulum swings on these definitions. There's an entire, I mean, one of the cornerstone jokes of the whole thing is there's an entire number based on good afternoon and how good afternoon meant one thing when this was
Oh, really?
written and good afternoon means entirely different thing. Yeah, it's very, very much our
That's
humor
funny.
and this your style. I think you would enjoy at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
just this musical number. They have an entire number just about how good afternoon was like really telling somebody to F off when the
That's
when the
funny.
Christmas Carol was released, and now it means something. So like Scrooge is walking around, or Christmas present is walking around, and somebody says good afternoon, and he like runs up to fight him because
Right.
yeah. So yeah, that's very much a part of this as this adaptation is talking about how long things have been, how much things have changed, and it's super interesting to draw down on these things that we feel like are solidified and realize that, well, we're in the
Yeah.
middle of things moving and swinging and things are being redefined, and what meant something, one decade actually means a complete different thing this decade in this context.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that more and more. As a kid, I guess I thought everything was just, look it up and there's the definition. And now I realize that
Yeah.
culture is like fluid. It's very fluid.
Well, and added, like Scrooge means a miserly person, and so you'd be offended if somebody called you that, but it just
Yeah,
meant
right, right.
pressing or or squeezing slightly pronounced wrong. Yeah, so it definitely does change.
Well, good
Sorry, I thought
afternoon.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Screw you. Yeah. I guess the last bit that changes celebratorily, not a word, but is adding what Dickens shows as Christmas is morphing
Mhm.
into something else that isn't just the church and isn't just carols are being popular. He's saying, oh no, it can be a bit more secular. It's family gathering and food and drink and dancing, and generosity is the big thing too, because that was what he wanted. That was the whole
Yes,
point of the thing is,
yes.
well, what would be the individual impacts? And charitable giving did increase straight away in the
Wow.
1840s. Big names of the time vowed to give. The Queen of Norway sent gifts to London's children signed with Tiny
Oh my
Tim's
gosh.
love. There was a
Oh
lot
my
that
gosh.
happened. And so it did succeed. And maybe that's also why
He
it
changed people's hearts.
yeah, and they said, "What are we doing?"
Oh my god, a
Yeah.
Christmas Carol worked?
Yeah. So good to say
Taylor,
cuz that's yeah.
we've been done this is a crazy amount of episodes. This is the first one where I know for sure that they really did it for real.
Yeah.
They changed the world. Oh
Because
my
now that's the
gosh, it's
thing. It's like, oh,
incredible.
Christmas is a time for generosity and looking at your fellow man. And it started with, hey, kids shouldn't be working 14 hours a day.
Oh
And it
my
ends up
god.
being like, maybe we should just be grateful and generous and think about people and give gifts and celebrate.
And you
And
wonder where it shifts from religion and a very insular in the home thing to giving gifts to neighbor, generosity,
yeah,
and the religious iconography fades to it goes to
yeah,
the peripherals. I've wondered about that shift, and I didn't know it was kind of this clear cut
yeah.
in a way.
Which is why it's so popular. Yeah,
Gosh, yeah, I mean, people need to be saying this when they teach this to kids. I guess I'm just like that this story is responsible for the idea of really what we know as Christmas in the modern age. It truly is, and I had no idea that this was that influential. I know what I mean. My God, I'm sad. I'm like, oh. It's hitting
Well,
me,
that's
Taylor.
like I said, like did he invent Christmas as we know it?
Yeah.
Not the Christmas tree, not the stuff, but the generosity,
The
the
notion of it, yeah. What I mean, I'm thinking about what we want it to be, what it represents, and what you feel, what you want to feel, why people like Christmas, why it feels good. Yeah,
especially
that
in a modern urbanized
yes.
society. That's how could you do it otherwise? People didn't know. And he said, "Here, look at Scrooge.
He
He's a
saved
modern urban guy
Christmas.
that's miserable." Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh
Yeah,
my
there you go.
god. He really did. He saved Christmas. I've been this is a Christmas miracle. Oh man, I didn't expect to get half as much out of this. I mean, I really just had I've known the Christmas Carol my whole life. Just didn't
Yeah.
know I should be giving it this much credit. We
Yeah.
truly
Well,
are. I
maybe we
don't
do
think
give it
anybody
to
is.
we give it a
Do
lot.
we? Do
Yeah.
we? Yeah. I'm like, do I need to walk around and shake people in Target and be like, a Christmas Carol? It's the reason for everything. But they'd be like, I know.
It's the reason for the capitalist hellscape we're in, where Black Friday is, yeah,
We took it too
October 5th.
far. We
Yeah.
took it too far. We're selling into each other. No.
Give gifts. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well,
That's it.
Taylor, incredible. I mean, what more could I ask for? You made me believe in Christmas. I
You
didn't
did that
know-
yourself. It was in you the
Oh.
whole time.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for hanging with us. Truly, I hope this was enlightening. I certainly got a ride for this. So think about this. We're watching all this Christmas stuff going forward this month. Look at all the stories, and man, I'm definitely looking at the entire season with a little bit of a different light now, and understanding way more about where some of this stuff comes from. We didn't even cover the holiday. We covered an actual one-off story, and this fits perfectly into our shows. It's not like we bent the rules to do a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Incredible. I'm staggered. I hope you guys are. Thank you so much. I love it. Get in touch with us at illiteratepod@gmail.com, at illiteratepod on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Catch us next week. Until then, stay safe.
And we will see you then.